All right, buckle up. We're going deep on Vertex Pharmaceuticals Q3 2024 earnings call today.
This should be interesting.
Oh, yeah, we got the transcript and some market data. This one's, well, it's a bit of a wild ride.
How so?
Well, you know Vertex, right? They pretty much revolutionized CF treatment.
Yeah, dominant player in that space.
Exactly. But they're not content to just sit on that success. They're branching out in some really interesting ways.
I've heard that. They're not just a cystic fibrosis company anymore, right?
Exactly. So what are we looking at here?
Well, they're moving into gene therapy with CSGVY for sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia.
Wow.
And they've got potential new treatments for pain and diabetes in the pipeline. Super ambitious.
Yeah, that's a pretty diverse portfolio they're building.
It is. And the market seems to be responding well. The stock ticked up over 1% after hours, which, suggests investors are optimistic.
Makes sense. So should we start with their core CF business, see how that's holding up?
Yeah, let's unpack it. Their CF revenue for Q3 came in at $2.77 billion. Not bad.
Not bad at all. A 12% jump compared to last year.
Okay, so still a strong performer.
And get this, they're upping their full-year revenue guidance to between $10.8 and $10.9 billion.
That's a serious vote of confidence. Shows they're pretty bullish on the rest of the year.
Exactly. But it's their expansion beyond CF that has me really intrigued.
Yeah, that's where things get interesting. Where do you want to start?
CSGVY.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Their gene therapy for sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia, it's already generating revenue.
Really? That's great news. It's still early days, but it's a big step in their diversification strategy.
Right. It shows they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
It's one thing to have promising therapies in the pipeline, but it's another to actually get them to market and generate revenue.
Exactly. And they're not stopping there. They've got 2 potential drug launches on the horizon for early next year.
Tell me more.
First, there's the vanzacaftor triple combination for CF.
Right. They could really solidify their dominance in that market. And then there's suzetrigine for acute pain.
Now, that's a huge market.
Huge. And there's such a need for effective, non-opioid options.
For sure. The opioid crisis has been devastating, so a new pain management therapy could be a game changer.
Couldn't agree more. But wait, there's more.
Haha, of course there is. This is Vertex we're talking about.
Right. They've got a whole pipeline of therapies in phase 3 trials. We're talking kidney disease, diabetes, the works.
They really are going all in on diversification.
They've even got a catchy name for it, their 5 in 5 ambition. They're aiming to launch 5 new products in the next 5 years.
5 in 5, I like it. Ambitious, but they've got the track record to back it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So far, this earnings call suggests they're well on track.
Okay, so strong performance in their core business, a new gene therapy hitting the market, and a pipeline brimming with potential blockbusters.
It's a lot to be excited about. But there have to be challenges too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Every ambitious growth story has its hurdles. What are the analysts saying?
Well, one key area they're watching closely is the commercial success of KCCDY. It's a groundbreaking therapy, but it's not a simple pill.
What do you mean?
The treatment process is pretty complex, and it comes with a hefty price tag.
I see. So the question is, how quickly can they gain traction in the market? Can they convince payers and healthcare systems to adopt this new therapy?
That's the million-dollar question. The success of KCCDY will be a key indicator of their ability to succeed outside of CF.
Can you elaborate on that complexity a bit?
Sure. It involves collecting the patient's cells, genetically modifying them, and then infusing them back into the patient.
So it's not as simple as writing a prescription.
Definitely not. It's logistically intricate and could impact adoption, especially in certain healthcare systems.
Gotcha. But it sounds like they're making some headway.
They are. They reported activating 45 authorized treatment centers globally, and about 40 patients have undergone cell collection.
Those are positive signs, for sure. It's still early, but it shows they're moving in the right direction.
And they're making progress on the reimbursement front, too. They secured a positive coverage agreement for KCCDY in the UK.
That's huge. Reimbursement is crucial, especially with a therapy this expensive.
We're talking hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars per treatment.
Wow. So getting those agreements in place is essential.
Absolutely. And they're also in early access programs in Italy, which is another promising sign.
So they're laying the groundwork for broader access. But what about manufacturing capacity? Can they even keep up with demand if the therapy takes off?
That's a great question. It seems like they've been thinking ahead. They recently got approval for a third manufacturing facility in partnership with Lonza.
So they're proactively addressing potential bottlenecks. That's a good sign. It shows they're confident in the therapy's potential.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Agreed. So CSKVY is one to watch, but what about that other potential game changer? Suzetrigine for acute pain.
Yeah, what do we learn about that from the call?
Well, it sounds like the FDA review is moving along smoothly. Their PDUFA date is January 30th, 2025.
That's less than a year away.
And Vertex is already gearing up for a potential launch. They've got their sales and marketing teams hired and trained.
Sounds like they're confident about this one. Remember that survey they did on the state of pain management in the U.S.?
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
It really highlighted the need for effective, non-opioid pain relief options.
And it's not just patients who are demanding it. A huge percentage of healthcare providers are concerned about the side effects of opioids.
Like 78% of them expressed concerns, even for short-term use.
It's a real problem. And nearly 90% said those risks limit their ability to adequately treat their patient's pain,
So there's a huge opportunity for a drug like suzetrigine.
especially one that's shown strong efficacy in clinical trials with a good safety profile.
Right. If it delivers on its promise, it could be massive.
Vertex seems to think so. They're already talking about copay assistance programs to make it more accessible while they work on payer coverage.
Smart move, especially considering how time-sensitive acute pain treatment is.
Oh yeah, patients can't be waiting for insurance approvals when they're in agony.
And there are some interesting policy developments that could give suzetrigine a boost.
Like what?
Well, the No Pain Act goes into effect in January 2025. It includes add-on payments for novel, non-opioid pain relievers used in hospitals and outpatient settings.
So doctors have a financial incentive to prescribe non-opioid options.
Exactly. It's like the stars are aligning for this drug. Vertex is ready to launch, the market needs it, and the regulatory landscape is shifting in their favor.
Sounds promising, but there's always a chance that real-world performance doesn't match the clinical trial results. Or that some unexpected side effects pop up.
True, but based on the data we've seen so far, things look pretty good.
Agreed. Okay, so we've covered their core CF business, CSGVY, and suzetrigine. That's a lot already, but they've got more, right?
Oh yeah, there's more.
Yeah,
What about the rest of their pipeline? Any updates on programs we should be watching?
definitely. Their type 1 diabetes program is generating a lot of buzz.
What's the story there?
They're developing VX-880, a stem cell-derived therapy. It could potentially be a functional cure for type 1 diabetes.
A cure? Seriously?
That's what they're aiming for, at least for patients with severe hypoglycemia. And they just got the green light to move the program into pivotal phase 3 trials.
Hold on, a potential cure for type 1 diabetes. That's huge.
It is. They're currently enrolling 50 patients in that phase 123 trial, and the primary endpoint is insulin independence without severe hypoglycemic events. And they presented some really impressive data at a conference in September.
What kind of data?
Well, 4 patients who received the therapy were insulin-free after a year, and they hadn't experienced any severe hypoglycemia.
It's remarkable.
It is, but it's a small sample size, so we'll need to see how the results hold up in the larger phase 3 trial.
If they do, it could be a game changer, not just for Vertex, but for millions of people living with type 1 diabetes.
Absolutely. And remember, VX-880 is just one part of their diabetes strategy. They've also got VX-264, which uses the same cells but encapsulates them in a device.
Interesting approach.
Yeah, the goal there is to eliminate the need for immunosuppressants, which could make the therapy even more appealing.
So tackling diabetes from multiple angles. Very cool. What about kidney disease? What are they up to in that area?
Their lead program there is povetacicept.
What's that for?
It targets IgA nephropathy. IgAN, for short.
IgAN. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's the most common type of glomerulonephritis.
Okay, and what's that?
Basically, it's inflammation of the tiny filters in your kidneys that filter waste from the blood. It can lead to kidney failure, and there aren't a lot of great treatment options right now.
Sounds serious.
It is. But the good news is povetacicept just hit a major milestone. It's moving into phase 3 trials.
That's good news.
Yeah, they presented some promising phase 2 data. Patients who received the drug saw a big reduction in proteinuria.
Proteinuria, that's a marker of kidney damage, right?
Yep. They saw a mean reduction of 66% after 48 weeks, and 63% of patients achieved clinical remission.
Those are really impressive numbers.
They are. And there's even potential for an accelerated approval pathway based on that proteinuria reduction. So if the phase 3 trials confirm these results, this drug could be on the market relatively quickly.
Another potential blockbuster.
Potentially. And that's just for IgAN. They're also exploring povetacicept for other kidney diseases.
Wow, so they're really covering a lot of ground.
It's clear they're not content to just rest on their laurels in the CF space. They're building a diverse and potentially transformative pipeline.
They really are firing on all cylinders across multiple therapeutic areas. It's an exciting time to be watching Vertex.
No doubt about it. They're pushing the boundaries of science and showing what's possible when a company combines a deep understanding of disease biology with a relentless pursuit of innovation.
That's really impressive. All right, well, that's a wrap on part one of our deep dive into Vertex Pharmaceuticals Q3 2024 earnings call.
Stay tuned for part two, where we'll shift gears and dive into the financial side of things.
We'll be back to crunch some numbers and see if their financial performance can match their scientific ambition. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Vertex Pharmaceuticals Q3 2024 earnings call.
Back for more.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love these earnings calls.
Always something interesting going on.
Last time, we really dug into their plans to grow beyond cystic fibrosis.
Right, branching out into all sorts of exciting areas.
Gene therapy, pain management, even taking on diseases like diabetes and kidney disease.
Ambitious stuff. But a company can have the best pipeline in the world, and it won't matter if they can't back it up financially.
Right, exactly. So let's talk numbers. What stood out to you from their Q3 financials?
Well, they hit $2.77 billion in total revenue for the quarter.
We talked about that, right? Pretty solid growth.
Yeah, a 12% increase year over year. And, as expected, their cystic fibrosis franchise is still the workhorse.
But we're starting to see some contributions from their newer therapies, which is a good sign.
Definitely. Plus, they raised their full-year revenue guidance.
Yep, between $10.8 and $10.9 billion. Shows they're feeling pretty confident about the rest of the year.
Yeah, pretty bullish. But revenue is one thing. Are they actually making money? What about profitability?
Oh, they're profitable, all right. And quite impressively so.
Let's hear it.
Their non-GAAP operating income for the quarter was $1.31 billion, up from $1.17 billion in the same period last year.
Okay, so that translates to...
An operating margin of nearly 47%.
Whoa, nearly 47%. That's impressive, especially for a company that's pouring so much money into research and development.
It's true, they're not shy about investing in innovation.
Can we break down their expenses a little bit, see where that money's going?
Sure. Their non-GAAP R&D expenses increased by 5% year over year.
Okay, makes sense. Got to keep that pipeline flowing.
Right. And their SG&A expenses, so sales, marketing, admin stuff, increased by a more significant 39%.
So they're spending more to bring those new therapies to market.
Exactly. They're building out their commercial infrastructure to support the launches of TSQVY, the vanzacaftor triple for CF, and suzetrigine for pain.
Makes sense, but are those investments sustainable? Can they keep spending like this without hurting their profitability?
Well, they're sitting on a pretty hefty pile of cash, like $11.2 billion in cash and investments.
Wow. Okay. That gives them a lot of breathing room.
It does. They can fund their pipeline, their commercial initiatives, all without taking on debt or diluting their shares.
And I bet they're keeping investors happy with some stock buybacks.
Oh, yeah. They've been active on that front. Over $750 million spent on buybacks so far this year.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is, confident in their future and returning value to shareholders. What about their guidance for the rest of the year?
They're actually maintaining their projections, despite all that increased spending.
Huh. That's pretty disciplined.
They're sticking to their full-year operating expense guidance of $4.2 to $4.3 billion. Yeah. Shows they're serious about balancing growth with profitability.
Okay, so they're striking a good balance. What are some key financial metrics investors should keep an eye on going forward?
Revenue growth is always at the top of the list. Can they keep delivering double-digit growth as they expand beyond cystic fibrosis?
Right. Those new therapies are going to have to start pulling their weight.
Especially CSJVY.
Yeah.
Any idea what kind of revenue trajectory analysts are expecting for that one?
Well, it's early days, but there's a lot of optimism.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Some projections put peak annual sales above $5 billion.
Ooh.
But remember, it's a complex and expensive therapy. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right. The ramp-up will take time. But $5 billion would be a huge boost to their top line.
No doubt. What else should investors be watching?
Operating margins are key. Can Vertex maintain its impressive profitability as it scales its operations and launches all these new products?
Right. If those margins start shrinking, it could raise some red flags.
Exactly. Got to make sure that growth is profitable and not just driven by spending sprees.
What about their cash flow? Are they generating enough to fund their plans without having to resort to debt or equity financing?
Yeah, their cash flow is strong. consistently generating billions in free cash flow every year.
That's a great position to be in. It gives them a lot of options.
It does. Invest in R&D, maybe make some acquisitions, return capital to shareholders. They've got a lot of flexibility.
So they have a growing top line, healthy margins, tons of cash, and strong cash flow. It sounds like a dream scenario. But what could go wrong? What are the risks investors should be aware of?
Well, no company is invincible. Competition is a big one. While they're the kings of CF, other companies are sniffing around.
Right. There's always the risk of someone developing a better treatment or undercutting them on price.
Exactly. And drug development is inherently risky.
Oh, yeah. Regulatory setbacks are always a possibility. A late-stage trial failure, an unexpected FDA rejection, those things can really throw a wrench in the works.
Very true. And even if everything goes smoothly with the science, there's still the challenge of executing those launches.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of products coming to market in the next few years.
They've been good at it in the past, but launching gene therapies and breaking into new markets is a whole different ballgame.
Lots of moving parts, educating doctors and patients, navigating reimbursement, building the infrastructure to support these new therapies. It's a big undertaking.
All right, so we've covered the financials, the risks, the things that could make or break their future. Bottom line is this a company investors should be bullish on?
That's the question, isn't it?
It's a fascinating case. They have a great track record, a strong financial foundation, and a bold vision. But they're also stepping into uncharted territory. It's high risk, high reward.
So not exactly a slam dunk.
Not quite. There's potential for huge returns, but also the potential for setbacks.
But they seem to be approaching this strategically.
They are. Their deep understanding of the science, their disciplined approach to drug development, their commitment to financial rigor, those are all big advantages. They're not just winging it.
That's good to hear. Sounds like they're doing all the right things to set themselves up for success.
And that's why a lot of analysts and investors are optimistic. But at the end of the day, it comes down to each individual investor.
Right. Weigh the risks and rewards. See if Vertex aligns with your investment philosophy and your risk tolerance.
Exactly. No one-size-fits-all answer in investing.
Well said. Hopefully this deep dive has given people some food for thought.
Some insights to help them make informed decisions.
All right, ready to move on to part 3.
Let's do it. We'll wrap up our analysis by taking a closer look at their valuation and what it all means for investors.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We've spent the last 2 parts really digging into Vertex Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there.
We talked about their big move beyond cystic fibrosis, that amazing pipeline they're building, and those strong financials.
Seems like they're firing on all cylinders.
They are. But now it's time for the main event.
The main event.
Valuation. We get to that valuation.
Yes. Valuation. Where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. So where are we at?
Well, Vertex is sitting pretty with a market cap over $120 billion.
Putting them among the big boys in biotech.
Oh, yeah. They're a major player.
But is that valuation justified? I mean, are they really worth that much?
That's what we're here to figure out.
Right.
Okay?
Right. What's their PE ratio looking like?
Well, the trailing PE is a bit wonky right now. There was that one-time charge related to the Alpine Immune Sciences acquisition.
Right.
But if we look at forward earnings estimates, things start to make more sense.
Forward earnings, meaning?
Analysts are factoring in the expected growth from their pipeline, and they're predicting some serious earnings growth over the next few years.
Driven by all those new products we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. So they're trading at a premium based on future potential.
That's the idea. But how do they compare to other biotech companies? Are they overvalued, undervalued, or right in the sweet spot?
Tough question. What do you think?
Well, compared to other large cap biotech companies, they're trading at a higher price to earnings multiple. But that premium isn't coming out of nowhere. There are a few reasons for that.
Lay it on me. What makes Vertex so special?
Well, for starters, their dominance in the CF market is pretty much unmatched. They've got a near monopoly, and their therapies have been life-changing for patients.
Right, so that translates to a reliable revenue stream.
Exactly. Investors love predictability. And then there's that pipeline.
Right, we talked about all those promising therapies they're developing.
It's not just 1 or 2 shots on goal. They're covering a lot of bases. Gene therapy, pain management, kidney disease, diabetes. Huge markets, lots of unmet needs. That translates to huge growth potential.
So it's not just the CF franchise, it's the potential of all these new therapies that's driving that valuation.
Right. And let's not forget their management team. They've got a proven track record. They deliver on their promises. They know how to navigate this industry. That gives investors confidence.
Confidence that they can execute their strategy and keep creating value.
Exactly. So taking all that into account, their dominance in CF, their diverse pipeline, their strong leadership, is their premium valuation justified?
With the verdict.
It's tough to say for sure. It's always a judgment call, right?
Right.
Some investors might say they're fully valued, maybe even overvalued. Drug development is risky. There's always competition. You never know what's going to happen.
True. But on the other hand,
You could argue that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. They're on the cusp of transforming multiple therapeutic areas. We're talking about potential cures, not just incremental improvements.
yeah, that's pretty exciting.
If they pull it off, the upside could be massive.
So it's a classic risk-reward scenario.
Yeah.
Big potential, but also some big risks.
That's
What advice would you give to investors who are trying to decide what to do with Vertex? Buy, sell, or hold?
Do your research. Understand their strategy. Look at their financials. Really dig into that pipeline.
Know what you're getting into.
Exactly. And don't forget to consider your own investment goals and how much risk you're comfortable with.
Great advice. All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We analyzed Vertex Pharmaceuticals' ambitious plans, their exciting pipeline, their strong financial performance.
And of course, their valuation. Always a fun topic.
Always. We even threw in a wild trade idea for good measure.
Can't forget about that.
We hope you found this deep dive insightful and thought-provoking. Remember, this is just our analysis based on the information we have. Always do your own research, talk to a financial advisor if you need to, and make informed decisions that align with your own investment goals and risk tolerance. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.